Hey, welcome back to the Splinter Twins. I'm Kyle, that's Mark, and it's new card time. We are going to each rate our top 5 cards predictions for Final Fantasy. And why should you watch this? Because we're pretty good at this. I'm just saying, we're pretty good at this.
We're going to do something a little unusual, and we're going to do a Commander product. Now, we don't normally do Commander products. We usually just do standard sets. But whatever the fuck is going on with this set, we'll do that, I guess. We'll talk about our thoughts in a little bit. Let's stop faffing. Let's get right to our top 5 picks.
My 5th pick is an interesting design space. I definitely think it's a cycle, and I definitely think I picked the best one. And one of, I would say, the most nostalgic ones for me. It is Midgard City of Mako. These lands with the adventure mode are super cool. I think it's a great take. Wizards has really explored the space of lands are the most boring cards in your deck. I don't think we can get beyond that. But how do you make a land that is kind of a spell but is not OP? And I think they, for the most part, balanced it. But on paper, having Reactor Raid, 2 and a black, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, and then draw 2 cards doesn't seem super powerful. But if that means you can do that on a turn and then also hit your land drop on a following turn to get to your 5th or 6th land drop, that is dope. And I think we've got a lot of pieces for aristocrats and sacrifice, but incidental artifact sacrifice, things that you want to sacrifice anyway, not that hard.
Yeah, it's a really expensive village, right, with a little bit of artifact steez on it, but you're right. The fact that you can stop that on the land, I was really surprised these cycles, with the way they're named, not legendary. So you could pack as many as you want in your deck. I don't know the way the current Aristocrats deck is structured. I don't know if you want to do a bunch of tap.
But like a two of.
But yeah, like a 2 of is fine. I actually almost included Jador, the mill card, because that, for the same reasons, is kind of sick. That
I think it goes black,
pretty nasty,
blue, and then red, because the red one being an instant speed is pretty hot. I don't think the green one's good. The white one is also really good, but definitely, we're going to say this a lot, but like more of a commander card. But the black one, I think, might see standard play, and the wild card of it being on a land made it worth my 5th pick.
Yeah, I think if I were to pick a town, I'd go starting town. I think that's just going to
be
that
card's
it.
sick.
But I don't like to pick.
That one's not
the
fun
lands.
enough. This one's also a spell. So here you go.
My number 5 pick is a little out of the box. This one's a gamble, as number 5 pick should be. I'm going with Clash of the Icons, or Econs. I never knew how to say this. It is a fight spell, and it is a saga spell. And you can do all of them at once. So you can fight, add a counter, remove a counter. You can do a lot of different stuff. If, in fact, saga decks are real, and there's quite a few big-time creatures that care about saga. I'm looking at you, Terra. This card, the fact that it's removal, plus it's going to give you some shenanigans with your lore counters, this could be real. And we've seen in the past that sagas are no joke. They can actually do some really powerful stuff. So getting to recharge or activate immediately with those counters. The only thing about this is it's sorcery speed, but it's 1 mana. It's kind of nasty. We've seen Bushwhack get some standard play just because of that extra land option. And I think this is equally powerful. I'm really kind of impressed with this card. If there's any chance that any saga deck is going to be a thing, I think this card's going to feature heavily.
I think it is situation, but I do like that it's spicy. I remember Kamigawa was the last time we really had cards that played around with sagas, so we'll see. There are a shit ton of sagas in this set, and a lot of them are creatures. They do really cool and interesting things. And, like you said, 1 mana and utility, probably a pretty good choice. Oh, Mark, you like spicy picks?
I love a spicy pick.
Well, how about number 4? That's Golbez Crystal Collector. It is Dimir mana, blue and a black, for a 1/4 legendary human wizard. Whenever an artifact you control enters, surveil 1, so some nice value on your 2-drop. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. That's pretty hot. Look, the Dimir artifacts and the Haunt the
deck. What deck is that?
The Haunt the Network deck and like the Dimir artifact control
now?
where you're throwing down grim baubles and stuff. That's why I say it's spicy, because I'm a sucker for a lot of different things in Magic, but like assembling all my little pieces and all my little artifacts just makes me super happy. But those decks, for the most part, can't finish. But Golbez is a way to finish and get card value, and it's just on a 2-drop. I'm not like tapping out on turn 4 for my card. This is just one piece to that deck, And like I said, it's got a nice butt for what that's worth. Like, it's not just going to get absolutely railroaded by Corey Steelcutter or some of the mice. You do have to work a little bit to get over the 1/4 butt. And it's just a 2-drop. And I don't think it's likely that this card is going to pop off, but I know that I'm really excited to brew with it. And if a Dimir artifact deck happens after this, which there are a lot of pieces in this set for it, and we already have a lot of pieces from something like Aether Drift, I think this card will be the reason why this nice value engine of getting artifact creatures back, increasing your board, pinging them without ever swinging. It's just super, super fun.
Yeah, but why would you switch? Is this card powerful enough to switch you into Dimir artifacts over something like a Azorius artifact, or maybe even an Esper artifact? Like, is this enough to pull you in that direction? Because the thing that color combo does over Dimir, it's much better at generating the token, so you can get that count up quicker. If you're just trying to get 4 Grim Baubles on the table, this is going to be pretty hard, much less 8. Like, where are the tokens coming from?
Yeah, I think it's going to come from things that sacrifice, leave another token behind, things like the removal spell artifacts, things like creature artifacts, the 3/4 from Aether Drift that gets cheaper as you play artifacts, playing that for 1, like that kind of process. And then Haunt the Network, generating 2 Thopter tokens. Like, again, I'm not here to say that this card is going to, like, do it. This is my hope pick. It's probably like my actual 5 pick in terms of spiciness. But when I looked at a card where I was like, I see the potential and I think that it's there and it does a lot for 2 mana, that's why I picked it.
My number 4 pick has 4 options. You see what I did?
Oh, that's a good card.
Called
That's a good card.
sequencing. Battle Menu is a hot card. I really think this card is good. Just specifically because we've seen cards like this. Valorant Stance, ring any bells, right? That has blow up a butt and also do some other stuff. Indestructible, we've seen Destroy Evil do some stuff. And while those secondary non-removal modes on both those cards are better than any one, having 3 other options that are at least halfway decent, that makes this a real card. I mean, I know for a fact creating a 2/2 White Knight is a fantastic thing to be able to do at instant speed, right? You're going to have a little bit of sweeper protection there, get in for the win, like do some stuff. Obviously, putting a butt on something in this minus removal world and all the small ball target stuff, even cut down, it'll help you dodge that. That can really just blank out removal, so that's got to be pretty good. And then, hey, gain some 4 life is just a fallback, but obviously the real hotness is with destroy that power. There's just so much modality on this card. I just think it's going to be useful no matter what.
Yeah, I read this card and I was like, that's pretty good. And I was like, oh shit, dog, it's instant. Like, the flexibility of a card is oftentimes, like, we've seen this so many times, like for commands and stuff, having options in a game of Magic to where this can be removal protection, it can be aggressive, it can be removal, it can save you when, and then, let's say they tap out and you just gain 4 life and then you kill them on the crackback. Like, and it's just all from this one card.
The problem with this card is really Get Lost. Are we going to not play Get Lost in the name of extra flexibility? Probably not, just being able to have multiple different kinds of targets with Get Lost. That makes it really hard for me to imagine that this card can see play anytime soon. And in Mega Standard Forever, that card's not rotating out, so that kind of sucks. But this has got some options. I don't know, maybe in a big white deck, there's room for 2.
My number 3 pick better be in your top 3 because this card is hot. It is Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. You are wrong, Mark.
Idiot.
For
No.
2 and a black, legendary human creature, human avatar soldier. This card does way too much shit for 3 mana. It is a 3/3. Whenever it enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card. Amazing. And then it also has, whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. No limitations. Do that as many times as you want. And then the icing on the cake is if this is the 4th time this turn, this ability is triggered, transform Sephiroth. Also note, this is not that watered down if a creature you control dies. This is if a creature dies. So all you need is technically 3 creatures to die because Sephiroth can kill something when it attacks. But on the backside, you have Sephiroth, One-Winged Angel, legendary creature, Angel Nightmare avatar. It has flying and then supernova. At this creature transforms into Sephiroth, one-winged angel. You get an emblem with the Blood Artist effect. And then when Sephiroth attacks, you may sacrifice any number of other creatures. If you do, draw that many cards. Here's the thing. I do not think you need to turn this card over for it to be good. I think in an Aristocrat shell, the front of this is doing plenty to top out your Aristocrat shell because it has what you need. It is a sack outlet, it is a drainer, and it is a threat they have to respect. I'm telling you, this card is going to make Aristocrats happen.
You've fallen for the commander nonsense. No, it's not. That card, that deck
Clip that.
is...
Clip that. We're going to...
Clip it. Absolutely. This is not happening. That deck is going to stay Raise the Past. It has no business getting into this card. The back half is a dream. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to do that. That's not a thing that's going to be available to you with any kind of consistency. So what you're doing is you're paying for a sort of sideways Zulaport Cutthroat Blood Artist for an extra mana. Like, that's what we're doing here on a 3/3 body. It doesn't have evasion, so it's going to swing in on turn 4 and die, probably? I really don't know what you're thinking with this card. I know it does a lot of stuff. It's got the Swiss Army flashiness, but in terms of you're going to have to build a whole deck around this thing, it's just not good enough. It's just not going to happen.
This card is going to be good enough. It does so much. It does what you need. I think you can play it in the Raise the Past decks. Like, just because Raise the Past doesn't get it back, this is still just having a bunch of dorks. There, I'm telling you, like, there are the pieces and parts in place to make this happen, and it just does so much.
Yeah, people are going to try, and it's cool. It's an absolutely cool deck, and I think people will play this card, and it's a strong card, but this is not going to sniff the feet of a competitive deck. It's just not happening.
All right, we'll see, Mark. We'll see.
Speaking of sniffing feet, I have never known such destruction. Ultima is a nasty card. This is a nasty sweeper.
You just shit on me for commander nonsense, and you're out here talking about
this
Ultima.
Card's good. So the reason why this card's good, for you little people that don't understand how Magic the Gathering works, is being able to destroy all artifacts is actually legitimately powerful on your sweeper. Like, that's pretty good sauce.
Oh, Ultima the sweeper, not Ultima the creature.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, the sweeper. The reason why the sweeper is nasty is obviously in the turn, but like, functionally, what does that mean? It means a lot of different things, right? If you have stuff that triggers on insteps and stuff like that, like, we can get some value and mess with people. But what it really actually says in all practical purposes, or most practical purposes, no dies triggers. Oops, they were on the stack, but the turn is over. Now it's done. They don't resolve. You don't get that. The real pick here, though, is this is the replacement for Sunfall. This is going to slot right in. You're going to go copy, paste. And it's not near as good in terms of being able to generate like the incubator token, and obviously Exile does its own thing. But most of the time, when I'm really salty at Sunfall, it's not even about the reanimator stuff. It's about missing all my dies triggers. That really hurts. And the fact that this thing can snatch up artifacts. I think this is a premium white sweeper. It's going to be in contention for a really playable card, especially if artifacts become even more of a thing, which seems like that deck is constantly trying to be a thing. It's a powerful card.
Yeah, this card hits Corey Steelcutter. It hits Simulacrum Synthesizer.
Yeah. Steelcutter's a good call. I didn't think of that one.
I mean, you got to live till turn 5, but, you know.
Well,
it does a lot for you, and this is what I want out of my... This is, I'm going to tap out, and I'm going to take the next turn off and force my opponent to rebuild and deploy more resources. This is what I want from my 5-mana control sweeper in white. Double speaking of sniffing feet, Mark. Number 2.
It's got a theme now. We have a theme.
Tifa Lockhart is my number 2 pick.
You nasty.
This card is a problem, Mark. Here, let me just outline a little scenario for you. You can read the text on the screen. It is a trample for 2. On turn 3, you can go Monstrous Rage, or even if Monstrous Rage gets banned, you can do something like Turn Inside Out, and then you can play either Fabled Passage or Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanse, just anything that puts 2 lands. And on turn 3, you are swinging for 16 trample. Like, what the hell? Like, depending on what you do on turn 1, they're just dead now. There is a lot of landfall support in this, but this card, just setting as a 2-drop with trample is key. But just your opponent knowing that you could just in the game out of nowhere, they have to fire removal off on this creature. And isn't that what you want out of your 2-drop in 2025 Magic?
Obviously, like 16 is the dream because you have to have the pump spell and the Fable Passage. That's certainly possible. And we've seen the nastiest thing about Monstrous Rage often is the trample, right? It just kind of invalidates blocking. This card just comes stocked up with it. You can get real cute in a landfall deck, right? We've seen a lot of Chocobo action have that, and you could do a Lumra or you could do an Aftermath Analyst, but this card just independently is pretty dang powerful and can pop off and do some stuff. Yeah, I could see this card being pretty good. Honestly, it's. I think it has to be in a landfall deck. I don't think this just goes in like Green Stompy or something like that. But if that deck is real, then this card can feature all up in that. My number 2 pick also caused, as a youth, a sexual awakening in me. That's Vivi. Ah, look at that.
Dude, why is that card your number 2?
Look at that card, because there's an even better card. This is nasty.
It's my number
Nasty
1.
card.
I'll just tell you,
Yeah.
it's my number 1.
I think it probably it should be my number 1, just in terms of raw power level. We'll talk about it. This card is, I think, absolutely breakable. I think there's a real problem. Anytime, we've seen this in the past, let's all say it together. What are the 2 things that tend to just absolutely break the game?
Extra turns, cheating on mana.
That's it. Yep. Every time we get into trouble. And this card just being able to pump out free mana. Uh-oh. Oh, no. And we've seen all the powerful pump spells. You don't have to worry about +1/+1 counter shenanigans. You can just get your value off of Monstrous Rage, Turn Inside Out, right? All of a sudden, now we're just doing some nasty stuff. And oh, by the way, casting those things just leaves permanent mana value.
It's just Uber prowess, 66666.
Yeah.
That's also ramp now. What the fuck?
Yeah, not to mention, Blue has in Standard currently a fair bit of like unblockable stuff happening. So this card doesn't have evasion. It looks like he's flying. Do not be fooled. This card does not fly. But oh my god, I'm really not even interested in getting in with this guy. I'm just interested in turning him into like the world's nastiest little mana battery. Oh no. Maybe he should die. Maybe all the black mages should die, Kyle, because this card's going to fuck up Standard. Yeah, hopefully soon. Kuja, get your boy.
They will.
He is absolutely out of his mind. Yeah, this card's nasty.
Yeah, it's just the play pattern of, even if you play this on 4 with 1 mana up, like what is your opponent gonna do? Like, okay, I'm gonna try to remove that card now, and the fact that it can generate any combination of blue and red is double sick. So you just play, okay, I'm gonna go for the throat. All right, cool. I have a red mana open. I Monstrous Rage it. Now I'm gonna tap it for 3 blue mana, and I'm gonna counter your thing.
You don't tap it critically.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Right?
I'm gonna activate it, and I'm gonna counter your thing. Cool. Good removal spell, bro.
That's the crazy thing is, like, you don't pay mana, you don't tap it, right? You can only do it once, but like, what are we talking about with this card? I don't think that. Does this go in Corey Steelcutter? Like, I don't really think it does.
Could. I think
but should it?
I've heard lots of talk about this being too slow for Corey, but
it's a different plan. That's the
I
problem.
don't think we're gonna know until we play with this card, and it could just not be the right fit for the Corey Steelcutter deck, but there's any number of broken things that you can do with this card. It doesn't have to go in that list, but I wouldn't be shocked if it does.
I think it's a different game plan than that deck.
It's not. It's not entirely though, because you're just chaining cheap spells.
Yeah, so that part makes sense. That maybe this is like the top end of that deck, and you're just generating mana, and so you're generating mana so you can just keep the party going with the Corey Steelcutter. I think that absolutely might make sense. But I could even see this being a mid-range deck, right? We've left the cutters behind, and we're doing this big blue-red spell. Is it slinging thing? Like, that's kind of cool. I absolutely could see that. Now, maybe that's not the more powerful version of it, but that's the deck I want to play, right? I want to be spell slinging. Is it mage? And Vivi can just absolutely let me live that dream up until I get my face beaten in by Corey Steelcutter.
It makes it bigger, Mark. Like, the fact that they're sitting there looking at their monks, and you've got untapped mana, and they're like, I can't swing into that because I kill your thing, I grow my thing, I eat your other monk, and then all of a sudden, what are you doing?
And after you put a bajillion +1/+1 counters, no, we haven't even talked about the fact that it just pings people. We just completely glossed over that.
That's true too.
But then, eventually, when you've countered everything and left them destitute by your sleight of hands, and you put like 3+1/+1 counters on Vivi, Corey Steelcutter just gives it trample. So like, don't even worry about it. We've got some sort of pseudo evasion. We're gonna come in and just finish you off with this guy. Yeah. The
So
more
good.
I talk about it, the more I think like obviously there's some debate, but like people are certainly gonna try to make this work. But I'm confident, even if it doesn't fit in that deck, this card is just independently cracked, and there will be a deck on this, and it will be good, and we'll all be happy because, yay! Izzy gets to be a deck again. Yay!
Well, it is a deck right now.
Yeah, but like, how long has it been?
It's been a while.
I'm sick of it already, but
it's
only
been a
been
minute.
month. But before that, dry
Oh
spell.
yeah, 100 years. All right, what is your number one? What could possibly be more cracked in your Jello brain than Vivi?
Okay. The problem with this
hold up.
card,
Let me pull up Scryfall so I can figure out this card I've never heard of before.
the problem
ready.
with this card is there is not yet a deck that I think it slots.
Did you pick the
neatly into.
bird?
No,
Okay, good.
I thought about it. No, I picked Nimbleheim Aflame.
Oh, that card
This
is hot.
is a disgusting red sweeper. We've seen kind of like Roller Crusher Ride and things like that try to kick off and do something with it, but red really has been missing like a good sweeper since Burn Down the House. This is better than Burn Down the House. It costs 1 less mana. It has flashback. It damages all the other creatures, but not yours. So you do need a big boy to make this happen, right? So now we're kind of like limiting what decks we can play this in. But then the nastiest thing is you flash this thing back for 7 mana and then you just like draw 4 cards. Like you discard your hand, but at that point you probably cashed and so you're just ready to draw 4. I really want Big Red to be a deck, and my God, this is really making it look like it can happen.
So it's cool, but the problem that you've fallen for is that your sweeper now dies to removal, and that is just shit. Like that's like it's a really cool card, but you can't cast this into open mana. Like if they just remove your card, you are so done now.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's very situational. I don't think this is like a 4-pack. I think we could maybe rock a couple of these in a Big Red deck, but like the floor is, as you pointed out, the molten core of the earth that you will be like smashed into. But the ceiling, Kyle, is quite high. And I want to touch that stove. I want to touch that stove absolutely. This card is just nasty.
This card will see no play in standard.
Talk about pump spells, like do it with a pump spell. Ooh.
This card will see no play in standard.
I think we're gonna
can't
make this
believe you
happen.
put our boy Vivi below this card. It's
I
a
just
really
didn't
cool
want to
card.
be a basic bitch and put Vivi up at 1. This card is my shot call. That's what number 1 is for. It's for
What is
for
it with
picking
us
that card.
in 2 mana red cards?
Sometimes
This is our
they're
number
good.
1 card in the set.
Sometimes they're good.
Sometimes,
But, this
sometimes they're meta defining. Sometimes they're boom cycle.
Yeah, sometimes. This is nasty. I just like this, and we'll talk about it. We're going to transition now into our overall thoughts on the set. In a set that just frankly is completely underwhelming in terms of power level, this is an independently powerful card. I'm just refusing to believe that we can't get this thing on the field somehow, some way.
My thought, like, they nailed the flavor on a lot of cards. There's a lot of cards that Mark and I wouldn't say we're huge Final Fantasy fans, but we've played, what have we played? 7, 9, 10, 2,
11,
13.
13.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And, you know, when I say play 7 and 9, I mean, like, hundreds of hours, probably, of doing everything you possibly can.
And 10. We played a shit ton of 10.
Oh, so
and
much
10.
10.
And 10,
And
too.
10, too.
Remember they wore dresses? That was weird.
The flavor in this is, there's a lot of cards that made me kind of, like, fist pump, you know? I'm like, yeah. But it definitely is really, really disconnected thematically. There's a lot of weird pieces to try to figure out in this. There's a lot of legendary creatures.
Oh,
and
let's actually stick on that for a second, Kyle.
every card
I've-
does just there's too much text.
I've run the numbers. Do you care to guess how many legendary cards there are in this set?
120.
So in Tarkir, 20 legendary cards. In Aetherdrift, 33 legendary cards. In Duskmourn, 24 legendary cards. So on average, about, like upper 20s. In Champions of Kamigawa, right? Everyone hated that set famously. Why? Too many legendary cards. 75. Your guess was very close. There are 115 15 legendary cards in the set. Now, in
I
terms
didn't
of
look
the
that up,
biggest,
by the way, everybody. I just stone cold guessed that after having read every card in the set.
in terms of like being designed for Commander, like people talk about like text boxes and other shit. That's designed for Commander. That's what that is. Like, and also just in terms of impact and standard, can't impact standard when most of the cards, like, what are we gonna do? Put a 4-pack of snow in our deck? We're not doing that. This is bad design.
It's also
straight up for standard.
it's not the designer's fault. I just want to be very clear because you can't print a Final Fantasy set and not do Cloud and not do like Titus and not do Yuna and not do like you have to but you can't make Cloud not legendary. That doesn't make any sense. This is the box they were put in, and I think they nailed a good job on the flavor. But you're 100% correct. And we're not just bitching and complaining because there's too many legendary cards.
Hold on.
It
They could have
directly affects
done
standard.
something there. They put multiple versions of Cloud, multiple versions of Sephiroth, multiple versions of lots of cards, not just like in the Commander, in Standard. That could have chopped out, 15 or whatever. The duplicates, Lightning doesn't need
Yeah.
2 cards. Yeah, but now we have twice as many legendary cards just from dint of like Lightning being a protagonist.
Yeah. The
That
other thing too,
hurts.
which that's kind of like I think the first, and I think your point is very nuanced on the number of legendaries, but that can be like a reductive person being like, oh. But the complexity
That
of
does sound
every
like me.
card in this set is just too much. Like if the goal here is to bring new players in, oh my god, this was I don't know, was this the hardest top 5 you've ever done? It was for me.
Easily. Well,
Because
in terms of
I
evaluating,
had to read cards multiple times. Every card took, a minute to process almost. It was just, at the end, I had to stop myself from not reading commons because I was just, my eyes were glazing over.
in terms of the text boxes, I don't know if they're longer or shorter. There was a lot of words, but there's a lot of very specific build around stuff. Like Hope is a build around. Hope is a commander, right? Like you can't just. We talked about like what's this going to do in limited. Like just forget about the rares, I guess. Those are build around cards, and I'm not sure how accessible that is. Maybe people like are Final Fantasy fans and they open these things up and they're like, "What do I do with this?" And it says you can build a commander deck around your favorite character, and that's all good. I'm sure they've thought a lot about that, but I play standard, and we'll give it a fair shake. We'll see what happens. And people talk about power creep. I want powered down cards. I don't want this to go crazy. So there's that. But this is, I don't think, the way, right? I think this set is going to have minimal impact on standard for a lot of different reasons. One of which is like, but it also is that commander flavor where it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe there's some crazy fucking combo out there that I'm just completely missing. And it's just like, oops, I win, Oop, I did a hope and you milled you out because I gained a bunch of life and now you're dead. And GG's, right? Maybe that's going to happen, but most of the stuff just looks like unplayable in standard, and that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and limited. I don't think I'm going to be
Yeah.
drafting a lot of this. I think a lot of these rares are going to be stone unplayable in limited. And as a person that hasn't spent money on this game in like probably more than a year, I rely on limited grinding to fund my, I'm going to call it a hobby.
Addiction.
Yeah, I'm going to call it a hobby. And I don't know if I can do this, man. I don't know. I'm going to listen to limited
Maybe.
resources and I'm going to do my best, but this might be stock up and save. Yeah. Positives to end on for me is I think that they did a really good job translating the universe of Final Fantasy and what a varied universe it is. There was multiple cards where I like fist pump because they nailed the flavor so hard, and there was a lot of really innovative ways that things like battle menu that feels like a Magic card, but
Yeah.
what a cool call out to something so classic and time honored. Like that is really awesome, and I want to give them credit for that and not just be a hater. I think Job Select was another one that really nailed it. But yeah, overall
Tiered.
I'm skeptical. I'm hopeful, but I am skeptical on my enjoyment of this set and its ability to impact standard.
We'll see. This will be the first time we've really had Universe Beyond invade standard. I do think it's going to be a little bit weird. The other thing I
Oh, Mark, do you like
expect
my
is,
Magic the Gathering shirt?
That's only a Magic the Gathering paper shirt. That's not
Oh,
a
yeah,
Magic
that's
the Gathering arena shirt. That's a different cluster. Final Fantasy is a really interesting property because half this stuff, not half, but like, whatever I played, I'll get the deepest cut reference from 7 or 9 or 10, and then I'll see something from 5 or 6 and be like, I don't know what that is. So what an interesting set to where you're like, and there's just no cross pollination, right, at all between these games in a lot of ways. So it is interesting in terms of trying to capture the Final Fantasy flavor because yeah, they're just very standalone games. So I think, hats off to try to make this cohesive. I don't think that that's a problem. I haven't gotten used to the idea that there's going to be like Sephiroth on the battlefield swinging into Voltborn Tyrant, and I think that's just kind of fucking weird, man. I just think it's weird.
There used to be standard sets that had commander cards in them.
Yeah.
This is a commander set that might have standard cards in them. And that's just the truth. You can like it or you can not like it, but that's what's happening.
Put it on the thumbnail. That's the truth. That's just straight up how it is. At me. I don't care. Enough wiffle waffing. Enough obfuscating. Now there is time for
begin the judgment.
We don't fuck around here. We hold each other accountable as only a brother can do. And we look at our picks from the last top 5. So in this case, Tarkir and others. You can, boom, see it on the screen right here. And we're going to take a look and see how we did. So you can see if we're just talking out of our asses. And I'll say, Kyle, you already said it, but I think we did a pretty good job this time.
So before we go into Tarkir, are there any cards that you want to move from the current list?
So we evaluate these cards based on our own experience, but I also looked at MTG Melee to see like what tournament results we're doing. And I just filtered out, since Tarkir, there's roughly 2,500 deck entries, right? So just as a rough barometer. How many decks do you think Sunspire Lynx was in?
It's gone up quite a lot.
I would 700! 700! 700 sideboards. That's the problem.
I would say, is it see some play, or is it good in multiple decks at this point?
No, because it's really exclusively, like, there's a little bit of Izzet and it's mono red. It's kind of those two decks, but I can't search
my boy,
those
like
700.
I said, my kitty cat is climbing the goddamn ladder. We started from the bottom.
Hang in there, baby. But it's the thing that I think holds this back from being good at multiple decks, and maybe even an argument for just edge case. Almost, I can't filter, but I bet you the 95% of those 700 decks, it's a sideboard card. There's 2 of, 1 of in a sideboard. But I still think that's respectable.
That's
to be
a
in that
lot of
many
decks, though.
Though that might just speak to how many Izzet decks are being entered into the format. Yeah. Regardless, this kitty's climbing.
The only one I will recommend, it's a rare. I would like to move down Bat Dark Confidant to LOL bad. We don't normally move cards down, but its time in edge case was so brief and it got so immediately cut. And I've really had to come to terms with the fact that Dark Confidant is in Final Fantasy and it's LOL bad if we picked it. That, like, I just don't think if a new person was looking at this list, they would respect me if I had Bat in edge case. So I'm going to move it down.
Fair. Put it down. All right, so let's look at, I'll start with my number 5. I picked Rakshas's Bargain. Respectable 39 decks. This card features heavily in the Overlords in various configurations. Is pretty good. Really anything with beans, as we predicted, this card's popping off. I would go see some play on Rakshas's Bargain.
I would say so, yeah.
I do think it's going to promptly exit the conversation as soon as beans is not here, whether that's rotation or ban. But until then, this is going to be 2 peas in a bean pod.
Yeah, you called it with Rakshas's. Like, the fact that it triggers beans is so good. And I think this card still has potential to climb higher up. It's just so good. It's just everything you want to be doing. And I think, honestly, if it wasn't for my number 5 pick, your card would see even more play. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to break my arm, patting myself on the back. The reason why I say, like, I'm pretty good at this is, seriously, go find another YouTuber that had Corey Steelcutter in their top 5 picks for Tarkir Dragonstorm. You're not going to find it. Like, it's not going to happen. But as soon as I read that card, I'm like, this card will be meta-defining. I am quite confident. I'm top 5 confident.
You said maybe. It was 5. It was on the bubble. There was a little bit of hedging, but top 5 is top 5.
Yeah.
So absolutely hats off to a stellar pick.
For a card to get in my top 5, I'm trying to pick meta-defining cards. And the edge case of, like, how things are going to shake out, this definitely max performed my window of assessment, as it were. But if anything, like, it went more hard than I thought. I do not understand how people looked at this card and didn't realize that we would get to at least somewhere where we are now. I mean, it's obvious now to everybody because we've been playing with it. This card wins games. Just, it's disgusting. It's going to stay everywhere until it is banned. And I was talking to Mark. It reminds me of Fable of the Mirror Breaker, because when that card comes down, you're faced with the choice of, do I remove the cutter or do I remove the monk? And either way, if you burn a removal spell, you feel pretty bad.
People are really teching against this card, which I think is kind of impressive. You're seeing a lot more temporary lockdowns and stuff like that. But this is still like the vast majority of tournament decks. I forget what the statistic is. It was like 50, close to 50% of the field is freaking
on
Forest
day
Steel
2,
Cutter.
like 2 weeks ago.
It's nasty.
It
So
just-
people are really, even though people know what's up, this deck is still performing really well. It's a very good card, and I don't think it's going to cop a ban anytime soon, but it's going to be contending for a while. I don't really know what's going to take it out. Hey, maybe Ultima. My number 4 pick, Ugin. Really good. Only featured in 15 decks, I think, and they're all over the place. I think people are trying to figure out what to do with this card. I would go Edge Case on Ugin. I know this was your number 1 pick.
Because it was my number 1 pick, yeah.
Card's really good, but people haven't really figured out where to put it. I expect this is going to climb, but it's not quite there yet.
No, I would say Edge Case. It's just so powerful, but I think the fact that Mice and Steel Cutter are the deck to beat, as it were. Like, this card smashes like mid-range decks that are trying to, play Shieldred and stuff, and you're like, it's a way to tap out for 4 mana. Anyway, here you go. I'm going to exile it. When Ugin comes down, like, what are you going to do? Exile one of their Steel Core Cutters if you're still alive, or one of their Monk tokens? Like, they're like, cool. Like, it's a casualty of the meta, and I think if the extremely fast aggro decks limit back and people start teching against that, and the mid-range decks establish themselves, I think you'll see Ugin rise in play. But it's just a really powerful card, and I'm not shocked that it's in Edge Cases, but I agree with you. I think it'll climb.
There's just better reanimation targets right now, and so it's really kind of like I need to ramp to this card, and it's going to just add me that value to push me over the edge. But yeah, I think we'll see.
I mean, you don't really reanimate Ugin in anything.
No.
You just ramp to it.
But that's what I'm saying. Because if you're going to reanimate, do an Atraxa, do a Valor.
If you're going to play a big dumb finisher, like, there might be other things you can do on like turn 4, as opposed to like doing an Honest Days ramping to 7 for Ugin. Mm-hmm. Why do I do this to myself, Mark?
I don't know, Kyle.
Why do I do this?
I really don't. Well, let me give you a little bit of hope here. Well, you tell people what you did.
I did play my last video I recorded by myself. Thanks for helping, by the way.
I didn't want to be a part of this embarrassing experiment.
I did play Herd Heirloom, and it is a really good card. Like, I didn't play enough to sit here and be like, everybody's wrong and they don't know the truth or whatever. But I still think it'll climb. I'm gonna put it in LOL bad, but I think it'll climb out of the basement.
Let me give you a little bit of comfort. Well, 11 decks did play it. They had mixed results in a Selesnya mid-range of all things. So not really in Green Stompy,
okay.
But going with those gear
We're calling it Edge Case, baby.
I'll call it an Edge Case. I think there's, people
this
are
card's
trying
so
this deck.
good. It's so good. And it feels so good to play when you put it in Green Stompy. It is just so nice. I went 3-1 in that video. I went like 60-ish% in testing, I want to say. I can't remember. But the other thing on Arena that I noticed in my best of 1 testing is like I was playing against some really janky decks, so thank you, Arena Matchmaker, for that.
Help me out. Yeah.
It just doesn't match up against the meta really well right now. No. But like every time I read it, I'm like, God damn, this card is good.
My number 3 pick, I'm gonna have to fight for this one. Rot Curse Rakshasa is a very good card. I've been playing a little. I'm laddering right now. I'm like 60% win rate on Mono Black Demons. This card's nasty. It's all 8 tournament decks. None of them had particularly great records, so we could go LOL bad. But I actually think this is an edge case card.
No. This card is either Edge Case or sees some play.
I think it's Edge Case. It's not really getting up into the tournaments, but man, being able to roll right into... People are kind of shitting on Unholy Annex, and I do not know why. This deck has not fallen off in power or in play. Unholy Annex is still an absolutely nasty card. It has got value.
Rot Curse is the truth, dude.
That's a good card. I would go Edge Case just because it's not cracked in the tournament scene. As expected, the removing blockers is pretty nasty on that renewability. We'll see. We'll see what happens with this card. If it's ever going to get past Edge Case, I don't know. But I really like this card, and I think it's underrated.
My next card, I'm kind of curious to see what you think. I agree. I don't think it's impacted. And I think it's weird because it's a victim of its colors being too good and it not being matched with what its color wants to do, i.e. Mice, Corey, Steel Cutter.
Yeah.
It's a really good deck, or it's a really, really good card, but it's a mid-range card for a color that wants to play aggro decks. So it's just
Yeah.
not. I can't say I can't say with honesty that this card is seeing some play. I'll say it's LOL bad, but I do, just like my boy Sun Spiralinx, have full confidence that this card is going to move its way out of the basement, especially if we see like a Monsters Rage ban or something like that.
Only 2 decks featured this card. Maybe that it can come hang out with my Nibelheim.
Hey, I almost picked the
Nibelheim
Sandworm from
Flame.
Final Fantasy because I was like, I'm gonna blow up your lands.
Kyle, no. No, Kyle, no. And maybe this deck can hang out. Magmatic Hellkite can hang out in my Nibelheim of Flame, right? We could do this big red thing, get a Koth in there. I don't know what we're gonna have a whole party.
We're gonna get
And he
weird.
can come. It's a good card. It's just like you said. It's without a home, and in an increasingly bloated standard. I don't think this dragon's ever going to see the light of day. I think it's going to go the way of the Buzz Crusher and just kind of be in that bulk bin, which is a shame. It's a good card.
I don't know. A 4/5 flyer that blows up a land and de-ramps them, it's too good to not see play. It just, like I said, if the color of red aligned more with this game plan, it would be meta defining. But it's just not what red is doing right now, and I'm confident that's going to change at some point in the next 3 years for Magmatic Hellkite. We're just gonna have to see.
My next pick is a little bit tricky. Sun Pearl Kieran, an absolute baller of a deck, an upgrade to maybe one of the best decks in all of Standard. The question is, it's not good in multiple decks, right? So it's I think it's a very good enabler. It's one of the better cards in one of the best decks. Can we call this deck meta defining? It's all 259 decks. I'm just thinking like, okay, then what is meta defining, right? Like this deck, this card is a 4 of in one of the best decks in Standard.
Yeah, but it
Seems
didn't.
pretty good to me.
So I would say it sees some play because you're right. It only goes in the one deck. If Sun Pearl Kieran disappeared, that deck could just find another card and slot it in, and it would still be roughly the same. It doesn't make an archetype. People aren't playing around Sun Pearl Kieran. It's really good, and it goes in that deck, and it earns its spot. But, so does Perilous Snare and Aven Interrupter and Scrap Shooter and... Oh, wow. We have Sorry, 1 second. Day of Judgment should be good in multiple decks at this point because of
None of those cards,
fast
except for another pick that I think falls into the same trap. Marauding Mako, right? Marauding Mako is a absolute auto-include in Jeskai Oculus, 930-something decks, right? I think we've got a problem with the sort of top echelon of the screen here, right? Because it's either like, if you're a very good card in a very good deck, which at this point, like, that's all you can really be. Like, I think, like, if you said what has more impact on Standard, Sun Pearl Kieran, look at that whole good in multiple decks. Sun Pearl Kieran is a much more impactful card for Standard than any of those.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just because something's in the yellow doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just more narrow. But, like, the fact that something gets into yellow is a badge of honor. Like, that is good. But it's not meta-defining.
But here's the problem. So is Hopeless Nightmare meta-defining?
No, I would say it sees some play.
So none of the cards in one of the best decks in Standard are defining the meta. That's inherently a contradiction.
I don't know. I would actually say, no, that's not true. I would say Storm Chaser's talent or This Town Ain't Big Enough is meta-defining.
I mean, not every card is even playing blue in those decks. People are switching over to Orzhov because of Sun Pearl Kieran. Let us know in the comments. You guys can break the tie. Let us know. Whatever gets the most votes down
How many
we'll
Orzhov decks in your tournament results?
Okay, I couldn't sort it by color, but I could sort it by rank. And let me tell you that we've got Orzhov, Pixie, Orzhov, Abzan, Esper, Orzhov, Esper, Orzhov.
Go on and put it in meta-defining.
I'm just saying, people took this card and cut the blue?
Yeah. If it's cutting This Town Ain't Big Enough, brother, you're meta-defining at this point. A tier tournament deck is making choices to cut an entire color. Like, come on. You're meta-defining.
Yeah. That's doing it. Give a shit down there in the comment. Are we being too nice to ourselves?
I don't think so. I think you
so
swayed me with the argument of, like, bounce decks dropping blue. I'm like, it's pretty good. Like, they're not doing it just for Parting Gust. I think it's definitely Sun Pearl Kieran. And the last card that we have to talk about, my number 2, Mark's number 1, Elspeth Stormslayer. I'm really curious where you would put this. I would say it sees some play or edge cases based on how integral this card is to the tokens scenario, and just I don't think it's good in multiple decks, but like I've seen it a lot in different decks on the ladder. But the only one I've really seen and noticed it is like the Caretaker's Talent deck.
As a matter of fact, this card is good in multiple decks. It's featured in 97 tournament results, and they are all over the place, which I think actually speaks more to a couple of different things. So we're seeing this obviously in mono white control, tokens, demons. Weird.
Demons?
Yeah.
Oh,
demons.
shit, dude. It makes 2 giant demons. I've never thought of that.
It does some stuff. Azorius Control and Abzan Overlords is actually playing a copy of this sometimes. I think the all-over nature of this card definitely puts it good in multiple decks, but more, I think, speaks to just the raw power of this card, where people are like, I'll absolutely do a silver bullet in this over here, or I'll try mono white control and do a 4-pack or whatever, because the card, as we said, is just so cracked inherently that people are going to build decks around this, or even slot it into things where it might not be the most natural fit, a la demons. But I think this card is that kind of powerful. I mean, you've seen it, you've played it. This card is very
your results have convinced me. Good in multiple decks. It is so impressive, this card. It's static ability. It doesn't cost that much. It is a must answer, difficult to deal with card type that works in mid range, works in control. Yeah, I think if anything earns its salt in good in multiple decks. You've convinced me.
All right, well, that's what we got. We got our reviews in. Are we out of pocket? Did we miss something? What's our biggest miss, do you think, in Tarkir? Let us know in those comments. We respond to every single one. We're really excited, I think, to get this going. Though we have some trepidation, I think, about the upcoming set, needless to say, I think we're pretty excited to get our hands on the cards. And just to finally, like, rip the Band-Aid off, honestly, just, like, see what this whole new brave world of Magic is going to be like, play some games, and see how we go. I don't know.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
It is... Magic is the greatest game ever created, and if the games are amazing, then I'm gonna be happy. And, you know, I love Final Fantasy. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I'm, you know, obviously our evaluation of Tarkir aside, really curious to see what you have in the comment section, if you made it this far, about your picks for Final Fantasy. Like, what would your top 5 be? Tell Mark he's wrong about Nibelheim. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But let us know. This is my favorite video to make every single set release. And the only good thing about releasing 1 billion standard sets a year is that we get to make this video more often, because it is so much fun to predict what cards are going to be good and then have to evaluate them on the backside. I don't know
scary.
How. I don't know how.
Hours thinking about this.
I don't know how other
Literal
YouTubers do it without their twin brother like heckling about
it's
their
necessary.
picks.
They're weak, I think, is actually what they are. They're just
it's
weak.
a lack of fortitude and character is what.
If they had the real integrity, if they had the testicular fortitude, they would mitose at a young age and have that accountability.
Split your zygote, cowards.
Come on, split it. What's the worst that can happen? All right, that's it for us, guys. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you in the next one.